When did you realize you were a storyteller?
Ooh. When did I realize I was a storyteller? Probably in high school. I think my storytelling comes from two different places. So it comes from obviously family, and I come from a tradition of trash talking, joke telling, old Jewish, crazy, like my grandpa, my grandma just sitting around the table, just telling stories. And so there's that side of me. And then the other side of me is growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, like around a lot of rappers and poets and wannabe comedians. And I grew up in DC. And so like every white Jewish boy of my generation, I wanted to be a rapper, and quickly realized I couldn't rap too good. So then I got into writing and poetry and storytelling. And from there, it was kind of merging these worlds and finding, like everyone, you got to find your voice, and just kind of bringing it all together.
Did you get any pressure from family or peers to do something else?
My family, my mom still is like, you make money on this? And I'm like, well, not really, but a little bit, enough to pay the bills. So I used to, I was gonna be a teacher. I worked in schools for a long time with different nonprofit organizations. And so my folks, they want you to have health care, and, they want you to, be okay and pay the rent and all those things. And so far I've been able to do that most months through my art. But no, they also, for the most part, I'm blessed that my parents and my family are mostly pretty supportive, and they understand it's like, you got to do what calls you. You got to do what makes sense. And mostly my mom's like, I don't think your stuff is very funny, but nice try and better luck next time. So they're supportive. What I'm saying is my mom's supportive in theory, but she's like, well, I don't think it's that good, but I'm glad other people like it, son. Keep doing what you do.
In some ways, do you think that's almost helpful? Because what if you had something where it was a pat on the back and everything you do is amazing, and then it wouldn't push you?
No, my family and my peers and my people, we don't have a lot of false praise. And it's good. As a writer, I need the honest feedback. And my wife, she's the toughest critic. And that's what I'm like, give it to me straight, no chaser. And then it's also good to have, as a writer, and I have this with Yvonne in the writer's room, it's also important to have those times where I can say, I want to show you a draft, and I don't want all the feedback just yet. I just want to show it to you, and don't tear me down just yet. Just tell me three things. Is there anything in here worth keeping? And we'll go off that. So I think it's important to have both the harsh feedback, but also the safe spaces. I'm trying some new stuff out. What do you think? So I get that definitely at home and at work.
Do you not like to have yes people around you?
I mean, well, I like to have some people who, are support. It's good to, like I said, you need both. You got to have the people who are supportive all the time, who are just like, let's try it. But I don't know. I don't really have yes people around me. So I'll let you know when I find those people. When I get an assistant and a manager and my agents and I have yes people, I'll come back and let you know. I haven't got there yet. And I think that's okay.
What's the most important part of the writing process for you?
I don't know what the most important part of the writing process is, but I know that the thing that I've learned over the last couple of years that's been the most helpful and the most, for me, why I transitioned from more solo performance and solo writing work to screenwriting and being part of a writer's room is, for me, the writing it's not an individual process, actually. It is, for me, I tried to do the thing where you sit at the desk by yourself and write a book, write the novel, and that's just not me. I couldn't do it. And so for me, I write my first drafts with people, or I get the ideas talking with people. Just what do you think about this? And the writing happens usually before I'm even writing. The writing is in conversation. The writing is trying stuff out, trying ideas, questions. I ask a lot of questions. And then the actual writing for me is, I'm still pen and paper. I'm still, I don't start on final draft. I don't start on the computer because the internet kills me. And not even the internet, just the screen. There's something about the pressure of the screen. And so I'm still, it takes longer because I have to freaking transcribe everything, but I get sooner to actually what I want. So I always start pen and paper, and it allows me to get free. And really what it does is it removes the editor in my head. While I'm writing, if I'm on the screen, I'm editing while I write. If I'm just writing freehand, I get a little more, that's usually where the good shit comes out.
Well, you do.
Usually.
And you do something called Why I Write, right? You stand up and do open mic, different things and...
Yeah, so as a writer, I got my start as doing performance poetry and spoken word, and then I did a little bit of stand-up, and then I moved into live storytelling in this show on NPR called Snap Judgment, and so I did that for a while, and most of that is, autobiographical or semi-autobiographical or supposedly autobiographical, but at a certain point I got to, I have stories. I can tell you stories about my life, and that's great, and I love to do that. But there's other stories as a writer I want to tell other than my own freaking life. And there's my whole community and my neighbors and my friends and my family. And I want to do more than just me on a microphone. And so that's, Yvonne and I knew each other just from Oakland, and actually, we met playing soccer. We didn't start just working together. We were friends, homies playing in a socialist soccer club in Oakland called Left Wing Football Club. And so I don't even remember how we got started. I just wanted to make some videos. It was early 2010 or something. It's internet videos, blogs, vlogs, all these things. And I was like, I want to do something. You're the filmmaker in our crew. Let's do something. And I think some of those still exist on YouTube. They're terrible. They're freaking off. I mean, the cinematography is amazing, but I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to write for film, but it's just experimenting. It's trying stuff out, and then little from little, going there to making larger videos, having slightly larger budgets, and then going from there to making the web series.
So why do you write?
Why do I write? Well, you're asking the big questions. I write because I think otherwise I would go crazy, or crazier than I already am.
It's a good crazy though, right?
Yeah, it's a good crazy, mostly. I mean, writing is a beautiful and also masochistic sport that I love writing, but let's talk about the good stuff. I write because I got something to say. I write because there are things that I want to see that are different in the world. There's characters, there's people that I know and love whose stories deserve to be told, whose aren't told in the mainstream media or Hollywood or just even the local press. Is whose story is told, how is it told, who are the heroes and sheroes, who are the villains. Like, I just don't feel, I want to complicate the narrative. I want to show a different perspective. And I also want to have some fun. And so for me, writing is the way to be both as serious or as ridiculous as I am on a given day. And I want to show the breadth of who we are as people. And I want to show, there's a quote by one of my heroes, Bertolt Brecht, old German socialist, playwright, and poet. And he said, art is not a mirror to hold up to society, but a hammer with which to shape it. And so for me, writing, filmmaking, all these things are a way to not just provoke people's ideas, but to show a different idea of what's possible. And in this country where we're so isolated, we're so individualistic, we're so divided and put up against each other, and where all the struggles of, American government, political corruption, racism, go down the list. Let's use art to show something different, and not to ignore the pain, but to name the reality of this. These are the problems that are affecting people's daily lives. But what could it look like if it was something a little different? And so art and writing is about that radical imagination.
Have you ever written something, whether it's performance or a screenplay, that it bothered someone and they were very angry about it? And how
hell yeah.
And how does that make you feel? Because now you're...
Feels like I'm doing my job. The one of the main, not criteria, one of the main signs of feedback that I'm doing my job right is the level of angry emails that I get. If I'm not pissing someone off, I'm not doing my job as a writer. If I'm not challenging you, I want my art to afflict the comfortable and comfort the afflicted. And so if people in power are, tapping me on my back, if I just have yes men, as you said, just like, oh, that's good, then I could just be making commercials for Coca-Cola, but that's not what I want to be doing. There are times I'm a Jewish writer who writes about Israel and Palestine sometimes. That can be a little controversial. I'm a white guy who talks about race and white privilege. Yeah, that sometimes people have some feelings about that. I work with a multiracial team of writers in Oakland. Even in the writer's room, we challenge each other. We're not sure if they're saying what they want to say. Am I speaking on behalf of someone else? Are you saying what is a real representation, or is that a stereotype? And so the first thing I feel like is in the writer's room is, even before the writer's room, am I challenging myself? And so if I'm not challenged, or if I'm not surprised, or if I'm not in a new place by the end of the writing that I was at the start, then I haven't done my own job to myself. And so I feel like that's, we gotta end somewhere new.
Has anyone ever said, can you tone it down? And what is your response to that?
That great classic movie, This Is Spinal Tap? Yeah. Turn it to 11. No, we turn it up. We don't have time to tone it down. There's too much false politeness. There's too much trying to make everyone... It's not that I want to stir controversy for the sake of controversy. It's not, I don't want just to offend you or upset you for the sake of a reaction. The idea is, can we look at some new perspectives? The idea is, no matter where you stand, we all know there's some things that are wiped between the rug, not wiped under the rug. There are some things that are not talked about that need to get talked about. And if art and film and writing isn't the place, then where is the place to do that?
What takes you out of a story and ruins it for you?
I think that when you start to hear a false voice, like when, and this is what I have to guard myself against as a writer myself, is when you can hear the character isn't sounding like the character anymore, but sounds like, oh, this is the writer inserting what they want you, like, just in case you didn't know what I was trying to say, when they start to beat you over the head with it, with the message, with the plot, with the, our job is to show, not tell. When someone starts telling me, that's when I'm like, the curtain is revealed and I get out of the story and I'm like, oh, I see what you're trying to do here. And I don't want to know what you're trying to do. I just want to feel it. I just want to experience it.
Do you think voices are silenced today as they were maybe back in the 40s? The storytelling is too scary for certain people?
What do you mean by that? Like whose voices?
Artists. Now that everybody has a camera, everybody can be the storyteller and put their ideas out there. You think it's scarier for the powers that be? That you're trying to challenge, trying to show people something, whether they're going to agree with you or not, whether they're going to be angry at you. You think it's a dangerous time again?
I think, is it a dangerous time to be an artist and a storyteller? Is it more dangerous than the 40s and 50s? My grandmother was a communist in the McCarthy era, and her friends she was in jail for 2 years. I don't think it's a more dangerous time for writers than the 40s and 50s in the US. What I do think is that there's more access because people have means of production. It's been a little more democratized. People can get out their own stories. People can have their, web series. People can have their blogs. People can have, but I think the hard part that hasn't changed is less about the government suppression and censorship, and more it's about media distribution and control. And so I think we have way more choices, obviously. We have Netflix, Amazon, Hulu. There's a lot more shows. There's a lot more media. There's social media. But I still think that in terms of the main stories that get seen and replayed and the big corporate advertising that gets in, I think we still have such a limited range of stories, of issues, of narratives that it's widened up a little bit in the last 5, 10, 15 years. And I think you have to credit especially Black writers and filmmakers who have really pushed that open in Hollywood and beyond, and women and queer writers and filmmakers who have really busted the door open. And I don't know if the door is busted open. I think it's at least cracked. And now it's like, let's get in as many people as we can that haven't been able to get in. And so I think it's opening, but I think there is, anytime you have progress, you have pushback. And so we see that politically with our last president to our current president about progress and pushback. But I think you also, any type of progress that we have had in terms of media representation, storytelling, politically and culturally diverse perspectives, I think it's important to know that and to be wary, especially with Republican governments, that repression can come quick. And they do come for the poets and the artists and the filmmakers and the storytellers. Like, that is one of the first categories on the list, because you have to, you want to shut down any dissent. So for me, it's interesting. We live in interesting, beautiful, absurd times.
Did you meet your grandmother? You knew her?
Yeah, my grandma helped raise me. She was born. She was in in LA. Her name was Dorothy Healey, and she lived in South Central from the 30s till 1982 when she moved to DC to help raise me and my brother. And so my grandma is my hero and my shiro, my motivation. And I just watched a video clip of her actually, and she talked about, she was joking. She was talking to some activists from the 60s, like some flower child, hippie generation up in Berkeley. And she was saying to them, she was like, you guys think you have a counterculture? We had a counterculture. We had music, we had writers, we had Paul Robeson, we had, Diego Rivera murals. We had a culture. The culture and the politics were together. We had comedians, and so for me it was interesting because we think about the 60s as like the renaissance of cultural expression. It's like mythologized, the 60s music, and it's beautiful. But I think it was interesting for me to watch my very serious political activist grandma. She understood the importance of culture. And so for me, as a filmmaker, as a writer, I'm a cultural worker, and it's in the tradition.
When you started writing The North Pole season 1, did you see it as a movie or a web series?
We saw it as a web series. Yeah, we wrote it knowing we would do these episodic, 8 to 10 minute episodes, because we knew this was a way we could get it out. This was a way that we could have creative control, but more importantly, we're mid-level writers and filmmakers in Oakland. We're not in the heart of Hollywood industry. No one was knocking on our doors 5 years ago. We're trying to break in. We're trying to get these stories out there, and so web series is a way to start. And so we started episodically, and we did the first season, and it did well enough that we were able to do a second. And so that's the new one, the season 2, that we're excited to see. And when we had our premiere in Oakland, and it's on the big screen, I think it works. And a lot of people told us this could be a movie. Like, it works narratively as a feature. And so for us, that's a beautiful thing, because we want it to work. Each episode can live on its own, but also there is a season arc that feels like a movie. And so, but we started as a web series.
Did anyone tell you in the beginning, maybe you should tone it down, don't have it be so political? Or did they say, maybe you should turn up the volume, up the ante a little bit?
Honestly, people did. I don't think people knew what the fuck to tell us when we were starting. I don't think people knew what we were doing. People were excited, and web series can mean anything and everything under the sun. So some people didn't know, is this gonna be like a short little thing? And then we're like, no, we want this to have serious production value, serious writing content, serious acting. Like, we want this should be as good as anything you see on Netflix, because these stories and these issues matter as much as, Gilmore Girls season 9 or whatever. So, I mean, I like Gilmore Girls, so that's a compliment. That's not a diss. And I think for us, we both knew what we were doing and didn't know what we were doing. And it was that combination of excitement and let's just make the road by walking. That's how we did it.
Do you think people outside of the Bay Area will see magic in the characters, will connect with them? I know the Bay Area is very cause-driven. It's about the Bay Area, Oakland, gentrification, other political issues.
The show is about 4 friends. It's about 4 friends who live together. 3 grew up on the block, 1 just moved to the neighborhood. It's about like 30-something millennials, black, brown, and white, who are dealing with their daily lives and also the larger issues that are affecting them. So I think, and we've done screenings across the country, and we've done screenings in Boston, in New Orleans, in Detroit, in LA. And does everybody get every inside joke? No, but there are things that hit for everybody. Whether it's the politics, it's about the people. And so our job is to make you fall in love with these 4 characters. It's not, I'm gonna hit you over the head with these issues. It's, here are 4 people dealing with, how is a rent hike not relatable? How is your friend dealing with legal issues not relatable? How is shitty bosses not relatable? These are all these are human things. These are American things. And for us, that's also where the humor comes in, which is we always start with the comedy as a way to kind of ease people in to the story. And then once you're in, you think it's a nice, silly comedy, then we drop a little bit of knowledge and go from there.
You've crowdfunded for it once or twice?
We did crowdfunding for both seasons. And yeah, so we did Kickstarter campaigns. And then the show it's a unique type of production. It's produced by a nonprofit in Oakland called Movement Generation that I work with. And they have invested, and we have raised money through different social issue grants, through filmmaking grants, as a way to cobble together the money to make a production that we felt was strong enough to be worthy of the people that we know and love.
And season 2 comes out?
Season 2 comes out September 10th, this Tuesday. I don't know when we are airing this, but if you want to watch it, the whole show is on the northpoleshow.com. So it's on YouTube if you Google the North Pole, but the easiest way is the northpoleshow.com. It's executive produced by Rosario Dawson. She's a cameo in this season. Boots Riley, who directed Sorry to Bother You, is in there. And so we hope people watch it. We hope people enjoy it. You know, you get to laugh, you get to learn, you get to talk shit. It's just, it's a nice hour of your time.
Season 3?
Season 3, I'll let you know.
Okay.